Call our meeting to order. First up tonight, we have approval of the agenda. If everyone can take a look at the agenda, if no amendments are needed, I'll seek a motion for approval. Second? All in favor? Say aye. None opposed. We have our our regular session and work session meeting minutes from April 1st. If there are no needs for any adjustments on these minutes, seek a motion for approval.
I'll make Mr. Chair.
And second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. Moving on now to administrative reports. Spring is in the air. Tourists are coming back. It's a good time to be in Jackson County. So looking forward to a great new summer season and spring and summer season, and greening up the mountains is just around the corner. So everyone get outside. Any other commissioner reports tonight? If not, so turn it over to County Manager King and his report.
So did want to bring you up to speed on a couple projects. One, we are working with FEMA to do cleanup of the Tuckasegee and other tributaries in Jackson County. The first project would be the Tuckasegee, which came in at 6.1 million, and the other rivers are going to be around 15 million. So for a total of 21 million, that's going to be FEMA reimbursed. We're working with them to try to clean up all the debris. So, the fairground project, we are working with Cherokee and have helped sponsor them for an ARC grant to do the water between 441 and Gateway Road, which will cross over to the Whittier area. It'll not only provide water for the fairground project, but also the Whittier district, which is also very needed right now. And also in Whittier area, we've got the Whittier Koala Park. That's going along very good. They've started the concrete work on the walking path, so it's looking very good. So encourage you to stop by sometime. And that's all I've got for tonight.
Do you have an update on the railroad condition?
The railroad, this one.
Over Boston.
Yeah, I think they were running trains today, actually.
Well, I heard they was.
Yeah. So I think the first one came over. They were doing some bridge reconstruction on that lower end. So that has been completed. So.
What's the time frame completion date on the Whittier Park?
I don't have a date. Let me hang on just a minute. I think it's in my report.
That I know people from that community that were wondering.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it was August of 25.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for working on that water deal too.
First up tonight, we have in public comments, we have Katie Price. Ms. Price.
Hi, so I'm Katie Price, and I'm commenting on behalf of the staff and board of the Watershed Association of the Tuckasegee River. So I'm here to express water's enthusiastic support for the idea that has been going around about Jackson County's prospective purchase of the Highway 107 Top Cat parcel. Most of our concerns with the safety of the project have been well stated by others, such as potential catastrophes posed by extreme flooding. We all are seeing things in new light after Helene that devastating contamination could occur if the river got far enough out of bank to inundate the parcel, or if fuel from the underground storage tank were to enter the river through damage. We know you're familiar with all these concerns and have heard them many times, but we'd like to add some misgivings that we haven't heard voiced about the bioretention system that has been claimed will remove all of the dangerous chemicals from the station's stormwater runoff. We appreciate Mr. Lewis's efforts to be proactive about these hazards, and we realize that no treatment is even required. But we feel that the security that the system offers has been overstated. In particular, this system is designed to accommodate only the first inch of a storm event. As it continues to rain and the treatment system reaches capacity, treatment will be bypassed, and fuel and additives that continue to spill on the concrete during the storm will bypass the treatment system, enter the surrounding soil, drainage ditches, and directly to the river in some cases. And so to put that 1 inch of rainfall into context, over the past 5 years at the Cullowhee NOAA station, there have been 96 days with more than an inch of rain. So it's almost 20 days a year on average. These are frequent events that are likely to bypass the system. Such bypassing would also presumably occur if the system's pumps fail. There are underground pumps that are a key part of the design, or if its loading rate of a ½ inch per hour is exceeded. So a rainfall intensity of a ½ inch in an hour happens all the time here. And then furthermore, the system is designed to take 5 days to drain, so that's how the treatment works, right? And so ongoing rainfall over multiple days is also likely to bypass the system, as if the rain is coming in at a faster rate than the system is draining. So we understand again that no treatment is required, and so far everything has been done to spec, but we also argue that more vigilance about water quality is required in a county whose economy is largely dependent on aesthetic and productive waters. As the county may now have a pathway to adjust this course and purchase the parcel for the community, Water wants to offer its encouragement and support in any way to facilitate that process. If it was needed to, if we could get out and crowdsource additional funding if needed, whatever we can do, we are here to help with that process. And thank you for hearing our stance.
Next up, we have Chris Keener.
I nowhere came as prepared as Mrs. Magnet did, so I'm going to keep it short. I'd like to thank all the commissioners that had something a hand in putting Silva back to his original state, because that's something I grew up with all my life and respect. And it's not about where we were at then, it's about how far we've come now, in my opinion. And I'd like to thank y'all for that personally. Secondly, my nephews need a pool and cashers. I don't think a splash pad is going to be efficient enough for maybe for young kids, but not middle-aged younger kids and upper-age adults that like to swim laps. To have to come all the way down to Cullowhee to have to swim laps is a bit of a hassle. So we would like a pool. And again, thank you for listening. Megan it's great.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Next up, we have Megan Macknick.
Good job pronouncing the name.
That one's a tricky one.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to sincerely thank each member for your decision to restore the historical monument Silva Sam. Your leadership and commitment to preserving the history of Jackson County are deeply appreciated by many in our community. This monument has stood as a silent witness to generations of change, struggle, and growth. While it may represent different things to different people, for many of us, it's a part of our heritage, an emblem of the history that has shaped our families, our town, and the South itself. Your actions show that we do not erase our history, but we engage with it. We do not destroy what came before us, but we strive to understand it so that our children can better know where they come from and who they are. Thank you again for standing firm in the face of pressure and for making the right decision to preserve this piece of Jackson County story. My second topic of discussion is regarding the proposed splash pad for cashers. I want to begin by saying that the Cashers and Glenville community appreciates the county's efforts, including the recent installation of the splash pad. It's a thoughtful gesture, and our families are grateful for the attention to our recreational needs. That said, I stand here today to share with what many in our community continue to feel, that a splash pad, while very fun for young children, is not a substitute for a proper community pool. Years ago, we had a pool, It was a vital resource for families, a place for children to learn to swim, and for people of all ages to gather, exercise, and build community. This closure has left a lasting impact. Many residents have not forgotten the promises made during the planning of the Cashers Rec Center, promises that included a new pool. But unfortunately, what we hoped for never came to be, and many feel misled and disappointed. Unless you're fortunate enough to afford a membership at a private country club, which many in our working class community cannot, there is no nearby pool access. Families must now drive over 20 miles to find a place where their children can learn a basic life-saving skill, how to swim. We're asking for more than convenience, we're asking for equity. We're asking for a space that brings us together, promotes safety, health, and well-being, and truly serves the entire community, not just a few who can afford exclusivity. Please consider making the investment in a community pool for the Cashers Glenville area. We've waited long enough, and we are hopeful that our voices will be heard. Thank you.
Next up, we have David Joy.
I don't know if I need to do anything with it or I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to talk about the monument. I'm a 12th generation North Carolinian. My first ancestor coming in North Carolina in the late 1600s into what would become Bertie County. I say that with an immense amount of pride. But to admit that I'm a 12th generation anything in this country means that I'm most likely the direct descendant of enslavers. And in my case, I am. I'm the direct descendant of enslavers. And that's not an easy thing to say. But I grew up in a time where, that flag and that history was revered. And when I look back, I think it was the conflation of that flag with Southern identity. And it came to mean all of these other things. I grew up going to Leonard Skinner shows when they hit, Sweet Home Alabama, and a 100-foot by 50-foot Confederate flag dropped at the back of the stage, and everybody went nuts, and my daddy was one of them. And then I grew up, and I read books, and I think about someone like Alexander Stephens, and I'm assuming we all know who Alexander Stephens is, but if we don't, he was the vice president of the Confederacy. And when he was defining what that institution was, he said, its foundation rests, its cornerstone is laid upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery and subordination to the superior race is his natural and born condition. That's what the man said. That's what he said it defined. So I don't care about any kind of revisionist history that wishes to place it as something else, because it's not that. And I think about the black communities in Jackson County. I think about people who have descendants here who go back hundreds of years. And what every one of you who voted for that is saying is that you revere a moment in time when their ancestors were in bondage. That's what that means. You talk about wanting to bring tourists into this place. Imagine any person of color who walks up those steps and that's the first thing they see. It doesn't mean that to them. It means something very, very different. I view your actions as an act of white supremacy. That's what I view it as. I think it's shameful. I didn't like what happened before. I didn't like the plaques. But hey, compromise, whatever. But to have done that with no moment for public comment, to have done that, just on a whim, we're going to do this and make everybody else live with it, is shameful. It's trash. And I thought about writing you, but I've written you before and you don't write me back. I know that me saying here is not going to change any of your minds, and that the only thing that I can do is vote. And I will, because that's what I always do. But I also want to take a moment to say it to every one of y'all's faces that voted for this, that's what that strikes me as. And it's not just me. And all of those people that you supposedly represent, that's what it means to them too. It means that you revere a moment in time when their ancestors were enslaved. It means when you think about a church like Mount Zion Church, which was founded by 11 formerly enslaved people in 1892, a church that was completely demolished by that university, a church who was forced to dig up their dead and move them to the backside of that mountain to make room for a dormitory. You're saying to all of those people, people who have served this county as deputies, people who have served this county uh, in all kinds of capacities, that's what you celebrate. That's nothing to be celebrated. Um, and there's nobody in this room who can claim more of that history than me. And so I wish you would reconsider. At the very least, I wish you would open it up to public comment. If nothing else, it's $13,000 that you just tossed down the drain. That was a ton of money that went into that, a ton of thought that went into that. Personally, I would at least like there to be a discussion where other people can say what they want to say.
Thank you. Denny Wood.
I'm glad I came because I want to look each of you in the eye and thank you for restoring what was wrong with us 4 years ago. And I too am a 1797. How's that? My family's been here. Both sides of my family fought for the Confederacy. I, unlike this gentleman, my family didn't own slaves. They didn't go to the Civil War to fight for slavery. They went because the state of North Carolina called them, and they answered that call. So did my grandpa, so did my daddy, and so did I. It's interesting that all my life growing up, that was a statue at the courthouse. There's never nothing racist about it to me. I grew up, went to Silver High School. My best friends are black. I was the best fan in one of them's a wedding. We never thought nothing about it. It was a part of history. That's what a bunch of them put up way back then as a tribute to their family members that went and fought in the Confederacy. Was slavery wrong? Absolutely. But slavery is still at the highest point it's ever been in history right now in this world. Nobody ever wants to bring that up, but it is. Previously, I come up here and talked with the other set of commissioners, and everybody's saying, well, there should have been some form. I come up here and talked, and I got treated like a dog. All right? So y'all took the opportunity to right a wrong, and again, I appreciate it, and I thank each and every one of us. To dishonor the 163 men who went and fought, and lots of them died. I had 4 out of my family, and 3 of the 4 did ever make it back. But when they erected that, that was not for slavery. It wasn't for this. It wasn't for that. It was a monument for them 163. Like I said, I answered the call of the state of North Carolina. I got jumped the other day. I'm going to share this with you. And they said, well, if your people didn't own nobody, why'd they go and fight? I said, because that's what poor white people did. When the state of North Carolina called for an army to be raised, they stepped forward. Wasn't nothing about nothing, but they went and done what they're supposed to do. I got so much in my head I could stand here and talk forever. But my final answer to her was, only 20% of the Confederate soldiers in the Confederate Army who fought and died in the Civil War had anything to do with slavery. 20%. So if I take 20% of these people that's in here tonight, every one of us, all right, and I say, let's go do something, and it's crazy, and it's probably going to get you killed. Well, the other 80% is going to look at me and tell you no, right? We're all sane human beings in here, correct? especially if what I'm asking you to do is morally wrong, biblically wrong, and just flat out wrong to start with. So with them other 80% of the people knowing all that and they still win, there's all kinds of many questions that you can ask about this, and there's so many books that's been wrote and so many opinions. But you always got to remember the books have been wrote and opinions of each and every individual are just that, they're opinions. I think the monument is a silver icon. I don't think there's anything racist about it. I know the Confederate flag has been used in so many different ways, and all in a bad way, don't get me wrong, but I don't look at it like that. I look at it in remembrance and in gratitude to my great-grandfather. And that, Mr. Stevenson, just a short story. My great-grandfather was mustered out of the Confederate Army on July 4th, 1863, after the Battle of Gettysburg. He's an Armistead's division. That's what they paid him, was a $20 bill, and they kicked him out of the Confederate Army. My grandmother kept it and passed it on to me, and it's in my gun safe. And I will pass it on down mine. The Civil War was a terrible time. It is a divisive time. And as a result, the South still in 2025 hasn't recovered in a whole lot of ways. We were looked down on still to this day because of slavery, and when the majority of the people in the South didn't have anything to do with it. So, in closing, I'll tell you this. I appreciate it. I got one more topic after this. I appreciate everything you've done. And I don't want to see no plaques get covered up again on it. Leave it alone. President Trump's already signed the executive order. It is what it is. Now, the cashier's poll, I'm 100% for it. The color wheat poll, y'all didn't have nothing to do with it. That was a done deal for y'all took office. But the people in cashier's, they deserve a poll. And I am 100% with them and behind them, okay? Thank y'all.
Next up, we have Renee Coward. Ms. Coward?
Commissioners, thank you for the privilege of speaking to you tonight. Western North Carolina is still recovering from the most powerful storm our region has ever experienced. The devastation was unthinkable. But out of that storm was another force of power, a force of good. Good folks banding together to help their less fortunate neighbors. We didn't ask about each other's politics, religion, place of origin, or on which side their ancestors fought in any wars. Banding together was bigger than all of that. Being loving and accepting and giving was bigger than all of that. That's what makes Jackson County and Sylva, North Carolina, and Western North Carolina strong. That's the kind of statue that I want to represent my hometown, one that shouts e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Take the statue down. Thank you.
Ms. Coward. Next up, we have Julie Van Love.
I'm here again. Thanks for listening. I wish I could speak as eloquently, extemporaneously as some other of the folks, but I have my comments written. So I want to talk about the gas station again. And first I want to say that I was the one that wrote the petition that many people might have seen or may even have signed on the that's on the NC 107 Safe Facebook page. I did have help from some neighbors. But I wanted to say that there were no hidden agendas, no personal or political agenda, as has been suggested in the paper. Only the idea that people's voices should be heard. Usually, a new business in town doesn't generate such overwhelming emotion and opposition. The petition seemed necessary because everyone I talked to was flabbergasted. Everyone was shocked and had nothing but disbelief that such a project could happen. And I had talked to a lot of folks about it because I was really upset about it when I found out. So I want to be clear that I understand the gas station is within what is allowed by current ordinances and state laws. And I know Mr. Lewis has taken care and expense engineering the design, presumably because he knows it's a sensitive ecosystem that he can potentially impact. He's gone above and beyond what was required, and in fact, he thinks that the state may use his design as pilot projects for other statewide. On paper, it looks good. It follows the laws, and it's deemed foolproof and fail-safe. But however, no matter how fail-safe it looks, it has inherent risks, not worth taking. For instance, current riparian buffer zones and setbacks are based on flood map models no longer current due to escalating weather extremes. I've learned that current weather and storm models are outdated and being revised, and it takes time for these processes to, for the information to trickle down and affect local ordinances when they're remapping on such a large scale. Also, the mountain region is unique and should have its own water protection laws that differ from the Piedmont and the coastal plain, but it doesn't. Mountain topography and economics here are vastly different from downstate. What looks good on paper in Raleigh just doesn't look good in reality when you're on the bank or fishing or in the water paddling or floating, not to mention the very real traffic nightmare that the 107 and South River and Old Colliery Road intersection already is. There's overwhelming agreement by the community on all counts, as demonstrated by the signers of the petition. As of just an hour ago, 2,171 people signed the petition. They understand that systems break down, that systems fail, that accidents happen. They know that traffic safety is a priority, and this is a well-documented dangerous intersection already. We know that extreme weather events keep happening, and less than 7 months ago, if that storm hadn't veered away from us, we'd be cleaning up from devastation that's beyond imagination. And it just missed us. We know that mountain water is crucial to tourism, and quality of life here are worth protecting beyond the one-size-fits-all watershed protections that the state offers. We won't get a do-over. The public has spoken, and a lot of people agree it's not worth taking this chance. The proposed gas station will contaminate the Tuckasegee River and cause major traffic problems on NCO 107. I want to go on record that I don't have anything against Mr. Lewis, personally. And I know he needs to make a living like everyone else, and that this is his family business. But it's not the gas station that I'm opposed to, it's just the location of the gas station. Despite how much progress has already been made at the site by the river, it's not too late. Let's find a solution that'll stop the project. I'm not sure how it can play out or how it will play out, but it doesn't have to go forward. There's not gas in the tanks yet. The solution I'm proposing is to find a way to persuade Mr. Lewis to move the gas station to a new location by buying him out somehow. This would be his personal decision, not an easy one for him. I understand to ask a man to conform to pressure in the public arena is a huge ask. But I don't see it as caving, and I don't think most people would see it as a weakness, but as a strength. It's said that the smartest people don't apologize for changing their minds when confronted by new evidence. I don't know Cody, but I've talked to people that know him who say he's smart and he's a good guy and that he and his wife do so much for the community. They care. about the community and they care about local. So 2,171 people signed the petition, which I'll add wasn't really easy to sign. You had to jump through some hoops, and I talked to several people who gave up. So it seemed it might even be a smaller representative sample than the people that are opposed to the project. The optics of him reconsidering and allowing Jackson County to make such a statement are huge. It sends a message that we can work together and come to solutions that'll keep our prized river and our roads safe. So with apologies to Cody Lewis for stirring up the hornet's nest and apologies for any hard feelings I've caused to anybody else, I'm asking you, commissioners, to help change the future by asking him to reconsider. Please, please find a way to make it happen. Make the project not happen, is what I mean. Thank you for listening.
Next up, we have Sarah Jennings.
Is this the proper time to talk about TDA? We're good. My name is Sarah Jennings. I am a representative of the Castros Area Chamber of Commerce, and I am here to present our nomination for appointment to the Jackson County Tourism Development Authority. And our choice is Mr. Jack Austin, who is here in the audience. Jack is a career hospitality professional. He has spent over 30 years in hotels and hospitality, most notably, I think it's 20 plus years at the Old Edwards Group in Highlands. I mean, he was there when it was like a 30-room hotel. And as we all know, Highlands has grown significantly, and I think much of that is based on the work that Jack did over his tenure with the Old Edwards Group. I know he was very instrumental in making Highlands a year-round destination by really pushing sort of staying open during the off-season. Now that we here in Jackson County call that the secret season, right, Nick? And it is with great pride that we present him now as a member of the Castros community. He has sort of taken his skills and experience and now is a part of the TJ Bailey group, which is in Castros now, right on Highway 107. And he is now their general manager. And we feel that he is more than qualified to represent the Castros Chamber on the TDA in so many different capacities. And we couldn't be happier at the idea of having him really represent us. As we all know, Jackson County continues to grow and continues to change, and we are thrilled that he has agreed to be nominated and hopefully be appointed by the commission. And we thank you for your consideration, and we hope that we can move him forward and get a full board back to the TDA. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jeffrey Hirsch.
Good evening, and thanks for giving me a chance to speak. I'm here to talk about the statue in front of the courthouse, otherwise known as Silva Sam. 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, the town went through quite a bit of public input, contention, understanding, argumentation, and it came out from this board that the so-called compromise would be something that, as usual with compromises, not everybody's happy. But it was working. I thought it was working fine. And for you folks to, on your own, ignoring all that went on 5 years ago from both sides, and basically just take one side and undo the compromise that we had reached. displayed three things that I think this town should be aware of. One, it was poor public governance. Usually private sessions are reserved for issues of personnel or that kind of thing, legal issues. But this is not that. This was a public statement of ignoring what we had decided 4.5 years ago. So it was terrible governance. Secondly, it was an insult to the citizens of Jackson County, who spent a lot of time and energy finding ways to explain their side and come up with ideas that perhaps might get us through this. And so it was decided to put the plaques up. And I don't know, it wasn't my personal preference, but it was okay because it seemed to take in a lot of people's attitudes. So there's number two, the display of basically disregard of half or more of the citizens of Jackson County. And third, from my perspective, it displayed a kind of cowardice that you chose that avenue to make that kind of a decision without any kind of public input. And I think you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Next, we have Terry Cole Smith. I may have mispronounced your last name.
Colson.
Okay.
And I'm just, I also cannot speak extemporaneously, so I read it out like copy for each of you guys. They do have typos.
That's okay.
So ignore the
Thank
typos.
you.
So, first, let me say that I'm really not under any illusion that this current Board of Commissioners is going to be swayed by any of the public opinion that we're hearing tonight regarding the recent removal of the compromise plaque that was installed after the very public debate regarding the statue beginning in 2020. The Silva Sam statue, right? I do question the method and secrecy of the communication the board used to come to their decision. My understanding from reading the newspaper is that it was just done via a phone call. I can find no mention in any of the online published minutes or the agendas prior to this decision. I looked, they're not all up. I know because it takes a while for them all to get up, but I read them all, couldn't find it. So who initially brought up removing the plaque? So far, there's no way to know. Who was on the phone call? Also unclear. County Manager Kevin King was quoted in a recent Silva Herald article as saying, "It's not required to vote, not according to the county attorney. That's a piece of public property that we manage on a daily basis." But I find it highly disingenuous to suggest that removal of the plaque is simply daily management of a piece of public property, especially in light of the intensity of the debate, as was just mentioned, in 2020 that surrounded the decision to add this plaque rather than relocating the statue, adding additional historical context, or adding commemoration of any kind for those who were slaves, died, or suffered that were not Confederate soldiers. And I don't think anybody was on the board. And I don't think anybody on the board currently was on the board when that decision was made. Were you, Mark, maybe? No. Okay. So you maybe didn't experience what that conversation was like. It's often suggested that the Civil War was about states' rights and not slavery, and certainly we've heard that that was a conscription, right? That people were called up, and I understand that. I respect that. However, the rights fought for were primarily the rights to be financially and politically viable via owning slaves. The Confederacy's goal was not for each state to remain its own entity. Each of them would have been rolled into the Confederacy, and the right to own slaves and bring back escaped slaves would have remained proudly enshrined in the Confederate Constitution under Article 4 had they won. I do understand, it's not in there, that the eastern part of North Carolina was very different than the western part of North Carolina in terms of who fought and why they were fighting. There was a lot of back and forth amongst people here. It was close to the Tennessee line where the the eastern part of Tennessee that's contiguous to this part of Jackson County was pretty pro-union, even though Tennessee altogether wasn't. North Carolina was the last state to enter and agree to being part of that Confederate war. So I understand that Western North Carolina has a lot of ups and downs in it, especially Western North Carolina, where there were no plantations. Nonetheless, North Carolina would have, had the Confederacy won, been able to maintain slaves, and they would have had that right enshrined in the Constitution. I would hope that even the most pro-Silva Sam statue Jacksonian would admit they believe owning even one other human being is morally wrong. And I heard somebody that's a Silva Sam say that and agree to that. I've heard and read comments from folks who say we shouldn't erase history, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. But a statue that glorifies the Confederate soldiers as heroes doesn't just memorialize history. That would be done with information that contextualizes, not glorifies. So let's contextualize the statue with history of Western North Carolina's complicated role in the war. Let's add that while for some, the statue was a memory of forefathers that died in a war, for other citizens, that war was, and here I quote from Inscoe and McKinney's book, The Heart of Confederate Appalachia, demoralizing and destructive. And above all, let's honor the slaves that were owned right here in Jackson County. Let's contextualize Silva Sam by acknowledging Jackson County's culpability in also owning slaves and apologize to those 218 people in Jackson County in 1860 who were slaves and to their descendants. And I get that, I get these names from the Jackson County slave census that was done in 1860. 163 people died in the war. I just heard that. That was a number I didn't know. 218 people were enslaved here in Jackson County. And they were owned by families with last names that we commemorate even today on our street signs. Enlow, Fisher, Cockerham, Norton, Hill, Hooper, Coward, Allen, Davis, Brown, McKinley, Rogers, Norton, Rice, Zachary, Sloan, Hackett, Whitmore, Frems, Gibbs, Hyatt, Sherrill, Mingus, Coleman, Crawford, Wilson, Bryson, Rogers, Thomas, Love, King. Those are the slave owners here in Jackson County. And that is history that should not be erased. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your public comments. It's nice to hear feedback. Moving on now to our consent agenda. And Ms. Fox with our finance report for March.
Good afternoon. I'll go over the highlights for the month of March. The general fund revenues collected to date is $71,303,365, with 71.10% of budget. The expenditures to date are $68,264,902. That's 69.83% of budget. The revenues at the end of March were $3,038,463 more than the expenditures. The ad valorem tax collected to date, $45,201,219. That's 99.81% of budget. The motor vehicle tax collected, $1,972,933. That's 65.91% of budget. And the prior year taxes, it's 48.61% of budget at $243,071. The sales and use tax distribution for the month of March, which was December sales, was $1,938,924. That amounts 2.09% more than we received in March of 2024. The Article 46 tax distribution amount was $205,585, and the average increase for the fiscal year is 0.80%. The landfill disposal fees, $2,890,036. That's 90.52% of budget. And the prior year disposal fees, $42,545, which is 53.18% of budget. The growth revenues we're tracking, the code enforcement is 13.79% above where the average is. The planning and environmental health are lower, and register deeds are break even at 75.77%. The general fund contingency amount at March 31st is $631,076.10. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the report.
Questions by the board? If not, we'll move on to budget and ordinance amendments.
Have one budget amendment for general fund. It's a net increase of $470,268. The revenues are from North Carolina Community Foundation grant, vaccine fees, health department, Great Smokies Health grant, state directed grant, other receipts for health department and comprehensive, some cost settlement funds for Medicaid, and hurricane relief money from NCDPH. That amount is $316,170, and it will carry over into next fiscal year too. And then we had $1,950 in agent donations.
Questions from the board about the amendment? Thank you, Ms. Fox.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have tax collector and refund reports from Ms. Henson. This is for March 2025.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the month of March, the current taxes collected were $1,058,271. The delinquent taxes collected were $45,735. The total collected for the month was $1,152,988. There were refunds of $1,332.56, releases of $607.06, and the rate at the end of the month was 97.78%. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. Henson? If not, I'll seek a motion for approval of the consent agenda. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Moving on now to new business, and Mr. Elders, we have a fireworks display request.
This was a little early.
I was gonna say.
The university likes to have fireworks the first home football game. And even though that's on state property and we don't issue the permit or inspect it, the county commissioners by statute are still required to approve all fireworks display requests within the county. Just a little background, this is they'll shoot the fireworks off in the practice field across the creek from the stadium. It's one of the more safe places we have to shoot, and they have all their Western staff there. They have their own fire inspector up there that takes care of it. And if y'all approve it tonight, I'll inform the Western staff tomorrow. They have to inform Chief Green at Cullowhee Fire Department and make sure he's okay, because obviously he has to be there.
Is this gonna be for every game or
It's just that first game, August 30th. So far, sometimes they do it for another game, but the ones for July 4th, I generally try to come sometime in June to get those approved, and we usually have 11 or 12 of those. And I've already gotten 3 or 4 applications in for those. Most of them are in Cashers, except our show downtown and the one at Bear Lake are down here. In Balsam, yeah. So,
is there a motion to approve this fireworks display for WCU?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings?
Yes.
Chairman Letson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Elders. Moving on now, we have Michael Poston for planning, and we're gonna talk about a UDO, public hearing request.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. A few I guess several weeks ago now, I was before you and we were talking about these technical corrections that basically to our use tables in our US 41 district, regulated district, and our Cullowhee regulated district. And this specifically surrounds recreational uses, governmental recreational uses in greenways and parks. And really, it's as much of trying to clarify the use table that these uses would be allowed in residential districts, which, of course, our Greenway in Cullowhee would traverse a lot of our residential properties, and certainly our recreational facility in Whittier would be inside our rural living areas. And these amendments are technical in nature, just clarifying those uses are allowed. It doesn't. Based on how the ordinance is written. It's just unclear. None of this is impeding progress or work done to it, but it is something that we'd like to clean up. And basically, it would be, clarifying that each of those uses are permitted in those districts in the use tables. In order to go through this process, the part of this process is we hold a public hearing at the 441 Planning Council and the Cullowhee Planning Council. And we've done those in both of those councils, and we had actually several speakers in support at the Cullowhee public hearing of the changes, and both boards have unanimously recommended to this board of commissioners that those changes be made, and you guys would consider adopting those. And we were just at our planning board meeting last night where there was unanimous consent to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of those changes. So it falls to the Board of Commissioners. The request from the Planning Department is that you would consider calling a public hearing on May 6th at 5:55 to consider the changes. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Questions from the board? If not, I'll seek a motion to approve the public hearing on May 6th at 5:55.
So moved.
A second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hooper,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have appointments and Tourism Development Authority. Mr. Breedlove's here if you'd like to speak, or Ms. Jennings if you'd like to speak again.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you, you have a recommendation. This one comes from the Casters Area Chamber of Commerce. With the legislation, they recommend the appointment from their membership, and they've recommended Jack Austin, who I've known for the better part of the last decade. He's always done a tremendous job in hospitality and tourism, so really stellar candidate for our board.
Is there any questions from the board? Not, I'll seek a motion for approval of Mr. Austin.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
In a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Hooper, Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions from our press tonight, Logan? We do have a need to go into closed session tonight. Tonight's closed session will be legal and real property. With that in mind, I seek a motion to go into closed session. In a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or none? We're going into closed session. Closed session, we have two contracts for purchase. The first is in Webster, the Southwest Child Development Center. We are purchasing that property for $350,000 for childcare for Jackson County residents. The second is the Evans Road, Cullowhee Road property. It is 58 plus acres, and it's to be purchased for our new middle school. And the purchase price for the school is $5.8 million. The purchase price for the Southwest Child Development Center is $350,000. With both these contracts in mind, is there a motion to approve both? Or do we need to do one at a time? Okay. So moved. All right, and a second? Second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hooper,
Yes.
Chairman Latson.
Yes. With no further business tonight, I'll seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, we are adjourned.